Are you ready, young lady? To wait till she's ready. No, she's not calling.
No, she's home.
Oh, is she home now?
There's nobody here to bring the order. Are we ready? We're ready. Okay, I'd like to call the October 4th Northampton County Council meeting to order with a pledge of the flag by Mr. William McGee.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Embo, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mr. Dietz.
Here.
Mrs. Ferraro is absent. Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Kraft.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Ms. Bartle-Hefner.
Here.
Mr. Warner.
Here.
And Ms. Zirinsky. Ms. Zirinsky?
Are you here?
I am here.
All present except for Mrs. Ferraro.
Mrs. Ferraro is doing family things. Need an approval for the September 20th, 2018 meeting minutes?
Motion to approve by acclamation.
Second? Mr. Dietz. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Courtesy of the floor, we have Mr. Richard Sobrowski is on the courtesy of the floor list.
Thank you. I'd like to address the resolution that's up for you tonight requesting the County Controller's Office to do an audit of Northampton County properties in the tax abatement programs. We have no problem doing this, but we'd like to meet with the council members introducing this resolution to get clarification because there are two types of programs that are opposites. And objectives should be tailored for the type of program you want us to audit. The alphabet soup of tax abatements incentives, KOZs, KOEZs, LRDAs, and TIFs are meant to promote development in defined areas, while Act 319, 515, and 4 are given to preserve open space. Based on the type of program you want audited, we could work with you to define objectives so that your questions are answered and we are most efficient with our audit times. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call you back up when we do that, if there's questions. Is there anybody else for courtesy of the floor? Seeing none. Next thing we have, we're going to hold off Mr. McCore's executive report because he is in Bushkill. They're receiving an award.
No, it's a Community of Distinction. They are receiving an award.
They are receiving an award for Community of Distinction in Bushkill, so he should be here any minute now, momentarily. So we're going to move on to old business. The next thing we have is a public hearing on the ordinance entitled "An Ordinance of Northampton County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, providing for the adoption of certain procedures related to the solicitation and award of public contracts within Northampton County, providing for certification requirements for public contractors, providing for certification requirements for subcontractors to public contracts, providing for public contract review processes, repealing inconsistent ordinances or parts of ordinances containing a savings clause, and providing for an effective date. The ordinance was introduced by Mr. Dietz and Mrs. Zirinsky at the September 20th meeting. Public hearing, debate, and possible vote will be held at this meeting. Adoption of this ordinance will concurrently adopt a resolution that addresses the challenges set forth in the ordinance, and its terms will be incorporated in their entirety as material terms of this ordinance.
I guess I'm getting away from public comment, so I'd like to withdraw my support with that. As the letter shared, I did think that adding that clause in would satisfy the litigation and be a middle ground, but it does not. So I think that that they've expressed that it does not satisfy their side of the lawsuit. So I would make a move that we table it.
So is that a motion to table
That's right,
or withdraw your support?
Well, both. So I guess I'll withdraw my support first, and then.
So you want there was a motion to table. Any discussion on the motion to table?
Wait.
You need a second.
Yeah.
Do we need a second? I'm sorry, you're right. Second to table? Seeing none, your motion?
Well, I have a point of
Sure.
order. So if he asks to be withdrawn from
Yeah,
this,
that's
do you
when
need a
yes.
co-sponsor first before you can motion to
Yes.
table? Or can you?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is, died for lack of support, and now you choose to withdraw as the sponsor, actually, of this ordinance. So we have one co-sponsor, one sponsor. We need another sponsor for the ordinance.
I'll sponsor it.
So Lori Vargo Hefner. Okay. Is there anybody from the public that has any questions or comments on this ordinance? Any questions or comments from members of County Council? I think everybody's read it. We've been over it a million times. Okay, you want to call for the vote, please?
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Kraft.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
And Mr. Dees.
No.
Passes by a vote of 7-1.
7-1. Thank you. Is there any other old business to discuss in front of County Council tonight? Seeing none, move on to new business. We have the consideration of a resolution approving the hiring of Dilworth Paxson LLP for the collection of E-911 fees. Mr. Heckman, could you please introduce the resolution? Yeah, we have them stapled and.
It's, yeah, we're conserving paper, so it's on the back.
Yeah,
the
it's
front
right
back.
here, towards the back.
For future, for future things, can we put like, since we're saving paper, can we waste pink tab paper to find the little individual things if they're on the other side? Like if there's a lot of stuff, so we just go to it? Thank you.
Can't you just dog ear it? Just manually.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Introduce it, please.
Well, the whereas is very short. Let me just do this preamble. The code, section, Administrative Code, Section 1103, outside legal counsel provides that the solicitor, with the approval of the county executive and county council, may retain outside legal counsel where necessary. And if you've reviewed that, I'm just going to go to the whereas. Or now, therefore, it be it resolved that the Northampton County Council concurs with the hiring of Dilworth Paxson LLP.
Okay, is there any discussion by County Council? Mr. Warner.
Just, I guess, clarification. It says that we're required a specialized class action representation. By whom are we required?
This first one is for the fees.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
You're
ahead of
on the wrong
myself.
one.
Okay, wrong one. Go ahead.
Oh, we need tabs. Now you have me confused. What did you ask? Mr. Kuzic.
Just a comment, and then maybe we can get some input from the county solicitor. This is legal counsel for 911 litigation. So my guess is that there's somebody out there that is not paying their 911 fees as they should. So if I could maybe have the solicitor mention who it is and what this lawsuit is potentially about, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, all right.
Don't need this anymore.
There is an organization, I believe, called Phone Recovery Systems that has determined in quite a few states and a number of counties, even in our state, that the mandatory 911 fees that are to be collected by the phone company are not being collected. In other words, you might have a law firm that has 200 phone lines, and all of those phone lines are collecting the mandatory fees. And then you have another law firm, say, with 100 phone lines, and they're collecting for 2. So counties are losing money. So this organization, along with Dilworth Paxson, has begun filing litigation. I believe it's 18 states, and I think we have quite a number of counties in Pennsylvania that are involved in this litigation as well. We have nothing to lose by joining in on this litigation. It's a contingent fee. If they lose, we pay nothing. We don't pay their costs. It's can only be a benefit.
So I guess my question is, who is avoiding paying the fee, and where did it's
Nobody's necessarily avoiding paying the fee. What's happening is the phone companies are not charging some of their customers. So there are various phone companies. For example, in one of the states, I think it's Alabama, Bell South was not charging. they were charging some people but not charging other people. And so it varies from county to county.
Yeah, several years ago, maybe it's 3 years ago, Pennsylvania changed its 911 statute for collections, and I'm wondering if that plays a part in this litigation.
It does, and I have a packet that we received that the county executive and I have reviewed when this was brought to our attention to be invited into this litigation, and I'm happy to give you the packet so you can read it. I would love to do. I have to make more copies though because we had a little. So I have a bunch of them, but I don't have.
I think you've answered my question. I think submitting it to the clerk for the record would be good, though.
A bunch and then whoever wants to.
Yeah.
Just give her one. Disseminate.
Just-
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other discussion on the resolution for Dilworth Paxson LLP?
Can I just ask one question?
Pardon
I
me?
would like to ask one question
From,
of you. So how does this affect us specifically? Are we just joining in this lawsuit? We're just joining
in.
it.
If there's any money to be had, we
Then
get
we'll just
some.
get some. Will it affect anybody in our county specifically such that they would have to pay more? It could, right?
No.
No.
It would just be the companies that were supposed to collect that didn't collect would be on the hook.
Oh, okay, so, okay, I got it.
okay, any other discussion, questions? Or for the vote, please.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Barbara Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Rinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
And Mr. Dees?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8-0.
Mr. McClure, you want to give your report, or you want me to do these last 2-3 things before? All right. Okay.
That's up to you, sir.
Let's do them.
I'll just do these, they're quick. All right, next thing, number 2, consideration of a resolution approving the hiring of Dilworth Paxson LLP as outside legal counsel for a 911 litigation class action suit. This is the one Mr. Warner had asked about. Mr. Heckman, could you please introduce the resolution?
Yes, and since I think we all understand the difference between the two, let me just go right to, maybe you want me to do this. I'll read that. On October 3rd, 2018, County Council received a request from the County Executive for County Council to adopt a resolution approving a contract with Dilworth Paxson LLP for outside legal counsel for 911 litigation in a class action suit, which requires specialized class action representation until the conclusion of the 911 recovery lawsuit for a contingent fee arrangement with fee scale from 10% to 40%, inclusive of the forensic auditing services dependent upon stage of disposition. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Northampton County Council concurs with the hiring of Dilworth Paxson LLP.
Mr. Warner.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize for the miscue, okay? Yeah, the question I was going to ask was, it says we're requiring a specialized class action representation, and what does that, by whom is that required?
I don't think it's required by, I guess I don't understand your question.
Well, it's asking us that, it's telling us that we're required to do this.
You're not required to do it. We're asking for your support to do this so we can retain, have this.
Okay,
have
so the
retain
way
so
it's
we can
worded,
get the money.
you're requiring, you're asking for a required person, a group of people to take care of this.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. It talks about the stage of disposition.
Yes.
Will you please explain what that means?
Yes. The fee agreement's rather complex. I'm happy to
Just-
provide you with a copy
Okay, that's
of
fine.
it, but depending on if it's settled pre-litigation, they get a certain amount, we get a certain amount. It also depends on what happens in each individual county. For instance, in some counties, preliminary objections were granted, and so there were some appeals. Right now, there is an appeal before the Supreme Court, I think, regarding Butler County. So in the counties where, so let's say we're a county that we file here, preliminary objections are granted to the defendant, and that's it, we lose on appeal. But in another county, the preliminary objections are reversed, the decision on preliminary objections reversed on appeal. So just because we lost doesn't mean we're not going to get any money. What they're going to do, though, is they're going to give more money to the counties where they didn't lose
Well, they won.
a preliminary objection. So So it's based on that.
Okay.
As well.
Because I had a question about with the fee arrangements that were made. Are they made prior to those decisions? Is that what happens?
It's all set forth in a fee agreement.
Okay.
That says if this happens, and you get this. If this happens, you get that.
Is there any chance that, okay, I guess the question is, and I'll just cut through everything. Is there any chance that we'll lose money?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing that we're not losing any money, is there any discussion on the class action suit litigation attorneys? Seeing none, call for vote, please.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Dees?
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0.
Number 3, consideration of a resolution requesting the county controller's audit of Northampton County properties and tax abatement projects. Mr. Kuzic, could you introduce?
Sure, I'll start in the middle here. Whereas in fiscal year 2017, the County of Northampton provided tax abatements under 6 programs, including Keystone Opportunity Zones, KOZ, and Keystone Opportunity Expansion Zones, KOEZ, Local Economic Revitalization Tax Abatements, LERTA, Tax Increment Financing, TIF, Clean and Green Act 319, Land Preservation Act 515, and Tax Millage Freeze Act 4, in the total amount of $4,555,778. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Northampton County Council respectfully requests that the Northampton County Controller's Office perform an audit on those properties within such aforementioned tax abatement programs to determine the efficiency and effectiveness of those programs. It is requested that said audit addresses, but not necessarily be limited to, the following questions or issues. Number 1, the year the property is in the program, what improvements have been made to each property, and whether the property continues to meet the requirements set forth in the laws governing the specific tax abatement programs. Now, earlier this evening, we did hear the controller, and I understand what his question is. Broadly, these fall into 2 specific areas, the economic development incentives and the land preservation incentives. I think my goal was more to look at the economic development incentives, more so than the farmland piece. But I don't think it's a bad thing to look at them both separately if possible. I'm open to suggestions, but I mean, that was my goal, because we do give an awful lot of tax abatements, and I don't think we've ever taken a serious look to see whether or not we're getting our money's worth and whether everyone's following the program. It came up in the Finance Committee when we were talking about that KOZ situation where someone is not paying property taxes at this point that's in an incentive zone. So taking a look at it, seeing if everything's working out, I think is a good thing. I think it could potentially be separated into 2, or if this council wants to just do one side or the other, I open to yes.
I think it should be separated into 2 different things, because I think that it's overwhelming the amount of information that we're going to get. And since your primary purpose was to look at the economic development and focus on that and see if, I mean, originally I think that is what you were trying to get at. Those are really something that we need to focus on, because some of them nothing has been done with their properties. So I think just biting a piece of that apple is going to be enough, rather than taking on Clean and Green and Preservation Act, at this time. So if we separated them, I think that would be better, because they are 2 different entities and they have 2 different objectives.
I personally feel this resolution is too broad in scope. If you want to find this out, or Ms. Zembo here can get you every LERTA, NIZ, COS, WAS, WIZ, everything we approved, and you can look at all the property areas. The state has to follow up on them to let them get their abatement. I know you're upset about Dixie and they are not paying taxes, but as you were told, how a COS or a LERTA works is the property has to be brought up to current full paid status before they start getting any kind of incentives. Zones that are actually working with incentives, it's a different ways. It's 10-year tax abatement. First year you pay 10%, the next year you pay 20%, next year you pay 30%. I mean, what you're asking and how many we have, I think, is going to keep the controller busy for, you're going to put some funding in the budget to let them do it?
Well, again, when you do an audit, you don't have to do every single property. You could do a random sample in order to see if that meets the
So are you asking for a
criteria.
random sample to appease you, or are you asking for a full-blown audit of you've asked for everything?
Well, I think
You know-
it can be done without doing every single property. I think you can do this by sampling some from each of these groups.
But that's not what you asked for.
Now, you know,
That's not what the ordinance, that's not what it's asking for. You're asking for a comprehensive, you're asking for everything to be looked at and then report to us, which I like, I'm with you on it, John, on having to know that they're working and we're not getting anything. But I think you should withdraw this tonight and maybe figure out exactly, like you want to go after the causes first and let them do just the causes or something and bring it 2 weeks and then make it something that's, talk to the controller, what you're looking for, what you're fishing, if you can find the East in Lerda, I'd love to see it, all the things and all the houses. Or, the New Bethlehem one that's in the little, it's too new, there's probably nothing on it yet. But we have them everywhere. And I know we've been sitting here and we do them all the time. So if you want to, I'd encourage you to withdraw and then talk to Bucky and see what you can get, if you want to get it, and then just bring it. I'm sure everybody's on the same page with you, wanting to see what's going on.
okay, so here's what I'll do. I'd like to make a motion that we send this to Finance Committee this month.
Oh, and sure.
Take a look at it and try to narrow it down and see what the controller feels that they can work with.
That's perfect. And so we'll just sort of
Yep.
Thank
send it to you, and I encourage you to, narrow the scope, because I think the controller's office is going to have a hard time at it. All right, then the last thing is number 4, consideration of a resolution approving the hiring of O'Donohue and O'Donohue LLP as outside legal counsel for litigation. Mr. Heckman, could you introduce the resolution?
Yes, I'm going to do the last whereas and therefore. Whereas on October 1st, 2018, the Northampton County Council received a request from the County Executive for County Council to adopt a resolution approving a contract with O'Donohue and O'Donohue LLP for outside legal counsel in defense of Associated Builders and Contractors, Easton, PA, during the active litigation time period at a price of $300 per hour for attorney fees and $150 per hour for law clerks and paralegal fees. Now therefore be it resolved that Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the County Executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with O'Donohue and O'Donohue LLP.
Thank you. Is there any discussion in council? None? Call for the vote, please.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
No.
Mr. Dietz.
No.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 6 to 2.
Thank you. Now we'll get to the favorite part of our presentation, the county executive's report.
I surprise you to know, Mr. President, is also my favorite part of your meeting.
Thank you.
So, Teledoc. This is really turning out to exceed what my wildest expectations were. We get this terrific utilization report that contains a plethora of information, and we've really only been doing this in earnest since July. And we have total claims saved to today, $97,196. An average savings of $517 per claim. I mean, that's real money. That's real money. I'm really looking forward to seeing next year, when we have it for a full year, how much money we can save on that. Just there's some interesting tidbits contained in this document, and I don't know why this is. There's no explanation for it, but the users are 69% female and 31% male. The time of day, the greatest time of day that Teledoc is used is between 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. 46% of people use it in the middle of the night, which is it's very interesting. And if you think about it, that really is a time when you'll have emergency room visits at hospitals, which are your most expensive visits. So that might explain some of the savings that we're recognizing. The greatest group age-wise to be using it is 31 to 45. That doesn't surprise me terribly, and that's they're the folks who are responsible for people who are sick and also are fairly tech savvy. And the 35.3% of the folks who use Teledoc are in that age group. And the next highest one is 18.2%, and that's in the 0 to 17 category. I don't know who, they must be kids. They must be employees' children. So that's really neat. The average response rate is 7 minutes. So in 7 minutes, you've got somebody on the phone helping you with your problem. So we're really, really very excited about this, and we think it'll only get better going forward. So I wanted to let you know about that. Also, yesterday, you may have heard, I had the opportunity to unveil my proposed budget plan for 2019, which is in your hands now. And I saw your budget hearing schedule, and we're looking forward to those. But I had the opportunity yesterday at the end of the presentation to thank the folks in fiscal who actually put this together. But I failed to thank the one guy who worked closely with me as we were putting it together, and that's Steve Baird. Steve did a lot of work, and I didn't mention Steve at all yesterday, and I'm sorry about that, Steve.
Steve?
Finally, I had a meeting with our Director of Corrections, Mr. Costora, recently, and we were talking about some of the successes he's had in his early tenure as the Director of Corrections, and he was discussing with me some of the challenges that he's facing. And one of the things that I think you'll like about Director Costora that I liked is he's always talking to either Mr. Dertinger or myself about opportunities to save money in the prison. And apparently in corrections there is opportunity to save money. But a lot of it has to do with reading contracts line by line, dealing with vendors, and he doesn't have the time to do that kind of work. So he and I together decided that we would fill the Deputy of Corrections for the Administration of Public Safety position, which historically was the position that reads these contracts line by line, that goes over when a lease is presented to corrections, who deals with prime care. So, you know, there's an issue in the prison where people are sent out routinely every single day from the prison to the hospital. This is very costly for us, not just because we're responsible for the medical bills in most cases. It's also costly because we have deputy sheriffs who guard the prisoners when they're hospitalized. So we need to work with Prime Care in order to try and deal with some of these very serious issues. And Prime Care is a big company. It's a big corporation, very, very hard-nosed, tough, arm's-length transaction type of provider. And they're not the only ones in the prison that are like that. So, you know, corrections is it's not a softball industry. And we need someone in that position like a former incumbent in that position, Colonel McGeehan, who many of you know. And Colonel McGeehan is not someone who is known for being a shrinking violet, if you will. But he's well retired and unavailable to us. So Director Costora said, you know, you've got to find someone who has negotiation experience, who has experience reviewing contracts line by line, that tedious kind of work, who has experience with obstreperous opponents on the other side, and who, and this is my word, it's not Costora's, he used some other word, but an irascible person, a person who you know, may not always have the requisite patience they might necessarily need, but you know, when you're talking about a hardball prison corporation, you might want somebody like that, somebody a little mean. And so I was thinking about it, and that describes somebody we all know very well. And so I asked Ken Kraft if he'd be all those things and take the position, and he told me he would. So it's up to him, I guess, to tell you the rest of that. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Any other questions for the county executive?
I had Quick question, last meeting you mentioned that the prison passed an audit or
It's
an
inspection.
Could council get a copy of that when it becomes available?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClure.
You're welcome.
It's, and I guess the other part of the new business for tonight to discuss is my letter of resignation to take the job starting tomorrow. Pardon me? There's not any tears. I don't know if they'll accept it or not. I'll just,
We're crying on
yeah,
the
Billy's
inside.
crying. I'll just read it. Dear County Council members, please accept my resignation as President and a member of Northampton County Council effective October 5th, 2018. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as a member of Northampton County Council and the residents of Northampton County. Yeah, sincerely me. It's kind of short and sweet.
It's just like you.
Yeah, just like me, because I don't like to talk much.
Exactly.
So, that'll be effective, I guess, tonight, tomorrow morning, whatever, the end of the day. Effective tomorrow. So, that's it. You want to accept the letter of resignation, Mr. Kuzic? Thank you, Steve.
I think there's
A very
shock
great
here. You
statement
think
in
this
this.
is shock?
I'll chime in. Ken, I've served with you here a long time. We agreed and disagree on some things, and, you've always been passionate for your district and the city of Bethlehem, and I wish you all the luck in the new position. I think you'll do a great job. Congratulations, and best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I'd like to say something, if I may. I can't.
We win
I
the
can't.
over.
I can't. I didn't ask any questions.
Who had the over?
I didn't ask any questions. I'm making a statement. I made that clear. I can't say anything as eloquent as Steve Barron's phone just did it after your moving speech. But I just want to say, Ken and I, we have actually. He's one guy I can have fun with up here. I remember way back in the past, we'd bust each other's chops on council now and then, and I enjoy doing that all the time. And Kenny's that kind of guy. I mean, we're talking about fast cars and guitars and rock and roll in the back. Then we come out here, we have a duel now and then. Then we go back and talk about fast cars, guitars, and rock and roll music again. And in his honor, I'm wearing a Jerry Garcia tie that he was getting rid of because he's so tall and I'm not. And so I have that. And let's say something. I think this is a great job, saying everything the executive said. You really did help me learn about the New Age Council, because there are some differences from when I was on, and it's been a process for me as it is for anybody who's new coming on. And I enjoyed the time we had together, and the best thing I can say is, you're a real stand-up guy who says it like he feels it, sometimes brutally honest. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather have somebody talking to my face that way than smiling while I'm pulling daggers out of my back. So good luck. I think you're great for the job. You fit all the things Mr. McClure said about you.
Thanks, Ron. I'd like to thank Mr. McClure for giving me the opportunity, and, I'll run with it. I'll have fun with contracts. I love doing that. I like finding all the little things that are wrong. I will be, if I have to be. We'll do everything we need to do to make sure that we get what we spend our money for, which is important. So, yeah. So is anybody going to make a motion to accept my resignation?
I'll make a motion to accept your resignation.
Thank
And
you,
I'll
Ron.
sadly second it.
Somebody's got the copy already. You have it already, don't you? She already took it from me. Call for the vote. Voice acclamation.
You have to do it.
All in favor?
By roll
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we
It
go.
must be a roll call, right?
Has to be a roll call? Okay,
Why?
sorry.
Personnel.
Have to make a roll call.
Absolutely correct.
Ron. Oh, no, Billy.
Billy? Okay, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Warner,
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Dietz.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
And Mr. Kraft.
Yeah.
Accepted by a vote of eight.
Solicitor's opinion, we need an opinion from the
We
solicitor.
sure do.
All right,
I will get a hold of Linda tomorrow to get the process rolling and.
to replace me.
Yep.
It has to be done in 30 days.
Yep.
We all know the
Well,
drill.
we already have, there's gotta be an ad going out.
Yeah.
And we're thinking it has to be at the next council meeting because we only have 30 days.
What the courts do.
When the people have to come in and be
Okay.
interviewed and then voted.
Does it go through personnel, or no?
Yes.
It goes
It
just
could.
straight to
It
council?
goes right to the council meeting.
Personnel.
No, it goes through
What?
personnel. That's
It-
how
it
the last
could.
It
one
always
went.
went to council.
Yeah.
We just did one and went through personnel.
Yeah, but
For the-
council always went to council meeting
Okay.
the previous year. Now, if you want to change it,
Okay, they'll talk about that later. They'll figure
Okay.
it out. So next thing is the council committee reports. Do we have any council committee reports? Seeing none. Do we have any council liaison reports?
I do. I went to the jail meeting. Why don't you give it, because you were there
I
with
was there.
me. Why don't you do your last report? Go ahead.
I didn't write all the notes and take all the questions that you did, so.
The dog's there, but I haven't met the dog yet. That's,
Oh, the dog, okay.
waiting to meet that dog.
I thought you were
And,
talking about Ken's dog.
pardon?
I thought you were talking about Ken's dog.
No, I haven't met that dog
Yeah,
either,
it's
but I
gonna
haven't
be
met the
next.
jail dog yet. And
My dog's
I
bigger
asked
than
him
their
to bring
dog.
it to council, but we're afraid of what might happen, so we may not. I can't think of what, he just talked about all the projects and, the general, meeting with the inmates and what their concerns and complaints are. It seems like they're moving along, and doing what they need to do.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori. Any other liaison reports?
I have one. Farmland. So I went to Farmland Preservation last night. We had a long discussion about the farmland preservation and whether or not we could have those in conservation easements sign a voluntary pledge not to spread sludge. And some of the sludge people were there. It was a very interesting conversation. We're going to extend it to the next meeting and try to figure out how we can implement that. And then we also are still preserving 7 through 11 on the list of properties, and the Klein Top Farm, which has taken 3 years to get them to sign the conservation the easement, actually closed, I guess, a week ago. So that was another huge deal.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Lehigh Valley Planning Commission met Thursday. The Transportation Improvement Fund was officially approved last Thursday, and which is good news. The money's going to, on its way, trickling in. There was a series of planning action team meetings that they had throughout all the municipalities, and Tina Smith and Mark Hartney and myself, we attended some of the meetings, and they were very informative, and it's to talk about what's happening in their community, what they could be doing better with, what they need improvement with. They were very informative. The meetings, the notes for the meeting will be on the Lehigh Valley Planning website. So that's some of the stuff that I guess they need to do to eventually get the money. So they start with the planning meetings, and it's the whole other start for the next batch. So it was pretty interesting for me to attend it and to see what some of the folks had to say. And also, the Economic Development Committee met on September 18th. Some of the notable things to talk about was the Air Liquide project that came into the county, this expansion. The B. Braun project, but also the Fresh Pet project, which were three really, really good things that are happening here. Some of the things they talked about was not having enough affordable housing for some of the workers, and that the industry will come in, but they'll come into the workforce. They're going to come to the people. That's kind of what they look at, and they're also looking at, in the future, creating a program to build on the county and to promote to build on the Lehigh Valley and to promote it. So they're working with a marketing group, and they're going to be coming out with a video and some other things, I think, in the near future. One other thing, the Lehigh Valley Gala Awards for the Planning Commission is on October the 10th. It's a pretty big deal for them. And that's all I have. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Anyone else? Liaison? None? Council Clerk?
Just to let you know that the first budget hearing will be October 9th at 4 o'clock.
I can't.
It's coming Tuesday. So, and bring your budget books.
Council Solicitors Report.
Nothing.
Nothing. Again, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure to serve with everybody. I mean, there's been a few that it wasn't a pleasure to serve with over the years, but overall, it's been a lot of fun. Enjoyed the meetings. I don't think I missed any, except that I go away once or twice. But it's been great, and hopefully you guys, trudge on and get through this budget and get to the next year. Wish everybody the best.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Give him a hand.
Perfect timing, huh?
Congratulations.
I need a motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is that a second? All in favor? Adjourn.